Fizz jungle. It's fallen quite a bit out of favor from its time in the spotlight. So much so, hardly anyone ever plays it anymore. But I'm here to tell you, it's better than viable. It's fun, but still viable. Just not top tier or anything. So for this guide, I'll be primarily going over the jungle Fizz-centric builds and playstyles. For mid lane or general know-how, this isn't really the guide for you. So let's get into some runes. Fizz is a bit tricky, since his abilities scale off of ability power, but the majority of his damage, in the early game at least, will be from auto attacks. Thus, we use runes to help out with those first few clears, and let items scale us up later. If you're IP poor, a simple attack damage page will do okay. But for everyone else, go for attack speed marks, seals of armor, 6 cooldown reduction glyphs, 3 magic resist glyphs, and quints of attack speed. You can swap out the quints for attack damage if you want. Masteries! Fairly simple, pretty much every jungler has the same page these days. 12, 0, 18. Spec and Bounty Hunter and Strength of the Ages. We get Bounty Hunter because we're going to be killing a lot of people and probably taking that last hit. And then we take Strength of the Ages because, hey, it's free HP, man! If you're particularly bloodthirsty, 12, 18, 0, Specking in Bounty Hunter and Thunderlord's Decree is an option, but not wholly recommended. Level up path. Always take and max W first. We want that constant damage over time to be as high as possible. Follow up with E second. This is a failsafe in case somebody wants to invade early, which would completely derail our build. Although the area of effect damage early is pretty awful. Take W or Q third. If the lanes seem to be doing okay, it's safe to take W for more damage faster. Otherwise, you're gonna need that Q to help gank. Typically, I max Q second for better base damage on the dash, but some go for maxing E instead for better AoE damage in team fights. It doesn't make a huge difference, however. Of course, take a point in R whenever possible. Items. Start with a jungle machete, refillable potion, and a warding totem. Then, upgrade to the smite of your choice. Most go with skirmishers for dueling power, but I'm more partial to warding, so I go with the tracker's knife. From here on, I'll be speaking with the assumption of trackers. Get your sweeping lens when you hit level 9, but generally not before then. Core items. Runic Echoes upgrade on the jungle item and Ionian Boots of Lucidity enhanced with Alacrity are the essential items to hit every single game. A lot say go Devourer, but I completely disagree. Fizz spikes in the early to mid game, making the quick stats from Echoes much more valuable. Alongside that, if you're not ganking for your team, they will feed kills, making it impossible to carry, sated or no. Additionally, the movement speed on Echoes is incredibly valuable for roaming. Boots wise, we go for cooldown reduction over the other options because we want to spam every single one of our abilities. And the Alacrity is for more movement speed to make plays around the map. Swifties and Sorcerer's Shoes are an option, but I would advise against it unless you're going something like Frozen Heart to make up for the loss of CDR. After just these few core items, Fizz is generally a powerhouse for a pretty long time. Although don't feel chained into upgrading the boost to second or third tier if a bigger damage spike instead is desired. The rest of the build, while it can vary, stays relatively similar between games. So generally I go for two different builds. The first one is the ability power carry Bruiser. Most of the time your first item after your core is going to be Zhonya's Hourglass. This is helpful of course to increase damage, but also to negate damage. Next up, go straight into defense like Banshee's Veil against ability power, Randuin's Omen against heavy AD, and Dead Man's Plate for everything else. Iceborne Gauntlet and Trinity Force are additional offensive options, but I feel they are too expensive and leave you defenseless until the very late game. Only get those if you are miles ahead. This is the item path I take for most games regardless of the enemy team composition because it's so easy to carry games with. Being able to put out considerable damage and be tanky is pretty phenomenal. The Assassin build. Standard mid lane build. Zhonya's of course is the core item for the ability power, armor, and life saving active. Typically go Rabadon's Death Cap and Void Staff right after. Follow up into defensive items like Abyssal Scepter, Rylai's, or any of the other options listed in the APC Bruiser build. This is for you Fizz mains or whatever that were forced to play jungle. This is the more situational go-to build. So for example, you have a tank in the top lane or they're attack damage based, and a support mage in the mid lane, like Lulu. Or you know, the other team has a bunch of easy to blow up squishies. General playstyle. Basically, just farm heavy in your first 2 or so clears. It's a touch difficult, but with a little bit of practice, you should be able to clear most of your jungle on your first go. By your second return from base, look to be ganking and warding heavy. Utilize hit and run tactics, visit lanes often, and generally apply pressure across the entire map. Come late game, focus on either split pushing or being a high damage overtime tanky bruiser in team fights. It's pretty simple, really.